Thank you very much, Israel. Honorable guests, I'm honored to be here. Special thanks to Chairman Byros Antuntas for his confidence in me. Pleasure in having you. Of course, the conference chair, Israel Pons, His Excellency Rosendo Alvarez III, Doron Cohen, Daniel Berliner, Paulo Oliveira, which I hope that will join us soon, Kobi Kalderon, High Commissioners, Senators, and dear guests. As Israel mentioned, we're going to be speaking about how to boost startups and innovation in Latin America through the economic development zones. Please allow me just to give a brief introduction. I was working with the World Economic Forum for many years now, and the World Economic Forum divided the world into three layers. There are the resource-oriented countries that are in the bottom, living from natural resources, agriculture, mining. Above them, there are countries that are efficiency-oriented, manufacturing with their hands, and the top are innovation-oriented countries. We've seen the same tendency here in our little Israel. When I was a kid, it was the Jaffa oranges, which is the best export. Then it was diamonds in my hometown, and today, more than 50% of the Israeli export is actually services, not product, mainly software and its derivatives. So I saw the same tendency also in Latin America during the years that I'm spending on and off in the continent. In the 80s, we noticed the shift toward free zones, nearshore, offshore manufacturing, maquilas, etc. Working with low margin manufacturing, but producing a lot of manpower for the country, for the country's success. Then in the 80s, in the beginning of the 90s, we noticed how digitalization services came to Latin America. My friend and colleague, Rosendo Alvarez, and I had the pleasure to be part of this tendency in transition from the conventional manufacturing toward what we're calling how to make the phone line better, just in the beginning of the internet. And then in the 2000, we noticed a lot of science park that started to proliferate in Latin America. So I would like to share with you in few words my insights from this period. So low-tech manufacturing is an opportunistic game. The manufacturing will move always to the place where manufacturing costs are lower, cheap labor, and better incentives, which are actually just increasing the circle of misery around those countries. The upgrade from one layer to another have to be done in phases. It cannot be in one quantity clip. And we need to have 5 players, and they are the entrepreneurs themselves, the government, the industry, the academy, and the capital. I think that Kobi Kalderon will speak about it later in more details. Education is very important, mainly STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, and of course, English, to build the technician base and the professional base in our countries. And the last point, which is the most important insight that I have, and I cannot stop preaching it all over, is a country that will not develop intellectual property is doomed to misery. Either you develop intellectual property or you're going to stay in the problem. So I would like please to start by presenting Daniel Berliner. Daniel is a PhD research fellow on crowdfunding research funding of the University of Agder in Norway. I participated in one of his sessions for Bolivian students a few weeks ago when he shared some stunning statistics regarding the challenging of funding of Latam, which we knew, but we didn't have the statistics and the details behind it. We are going to hear from Daniel a bit about alternative finance availability and the impact on the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Daniel, please.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to this lovely session. I feel very, um, I feel very comfortable in this session, mainly after hearing the previous session that targeting the main important things about everything that has to do with the entrepreneurial ecosystem. I would like to start by referring to this session that Gabriel addressed, because after this session, I got an email from one of the attendants, and I, with your permission, would like, without sharing any names or any private information, I would like to share with you this email. Okay, our company is the first that manufactures and assembles, well, it's an innovative product. We launched the company in 2019, and we are glad to say that we are expanding to other Latin American countries. So we are considering on applying to crowdfunding since we don't have the credit or sales history enough for bank in our country, because they require at least 3 years of credit history for mortgage secured loan as well as credit history. So this touches exactly the painful point with regard to um, fundraising. So we all know that access to finance is a vital factor in the growing and survival of early stage entrepreneurial ventures. And this exactly young innovative firms, they play a key role in modern economies, as it's not only about having the innovation, but eventually it's about their source of radical innovation, economic growth, job creation, and well-being eventually. So, but the problem is that even though their great importance to the economic growth, these firms suffer from an inherent financial constraints that limit their growth and eventually jeopardize their survival. So, my Hernan from the previous session said something like, kill less entrepreneurial ventures. So this is exactly what happens to these ventures. So, but this it's not new that external funding is very difficult to obtain from investors due to these entrepreneurial ventures newness in the market and their high risk profile. So we know, and and again it was emphasized by the email that they lack track record, they don't have internal cash flow, they don't have any audited financial statement, and any collaterals in general to for their loan or external funding. On top of that, we are dealing with investors in general will encounter high uncertainty and risk level with respect to the entrepreneur's true venture, and his or her ability to commercialize the venture. Traditionally, we know that venture capital and business angels have been regarded as the main source of financing for young innovative firms, after they, in a way, consumed all their own capital as well as their triple or four Fs of the friends, families, and the fools. So after that, we see that the entrepreneurial finance landscape, that traditionally, as we saw previously, as we heard previously, is based on business angels and venture capital, has seen a constant change over the past decade. And this is mainly with the introduction of new sources of capital that emerge mainly due to three reasons. So one is the 2008 financial crisis. The second one is that we're seeing major technological breakthrough. So we're seeing cloud computing, online payments, transaction providers, internet, smartphone, etc. We're more connected. And the third one is the social change with the introduction of the Gen Z, the millennials, that have their own characteristics, and they feel very comfortable with technology. So these three forces, in a way, promoted these new players in the industry, and we see that they spread across the globe, helping numerous of innovative entrepreneurial ventures in raising capital. When I addressed specifically to the equity-based crowdfunding mechanism, because it's the closest to business angels and other private capital funding. So just to be on the same page, this is one of 4 crowdfunding models, and one that has emerged to be an alternative equity fundraising mechanism for early stage entrepreneurial ventures. And this can be complementary to existing actors within the entrepreneurial finance domain, so together alongside business angels and venture capital. In the equity-based crowdfunding, entrepreneurial, in a way, sell a specific amount of equity in an unlisted company to a group, relatively large group of investors, through an open call for funding on an internet-based platform. According to the Cambridge Center of Alternative Finance, during 2018, the global equity crowdfunding market facilitated $6.2 billion in transaction volume. So equity-based crowdfunding in the UK, for example, which is one of the leading market globally, and is also, the UK market is also supported by a very liberal regulatory framework and tax incentives that promote early stage investment. An equity crowdfunding model is indeed is playing a very significant role in the provision of equity finance to seed and early stage ventures. So, an equity crowdfunding has been seeing an increasing trend from $3.9 million pounds, in the UK in 2012 to 363 million in 2018. So it's representing a 900% growth, and accounting for approximately 10% of the overall equity-based finance for seed and early stage ventures in UK alone. So it's become a very substantial alternative mechanism for early stage entrepreneurial ventures. And this is complementary to existing actors within the entrepreneurial finance domain. However, the high-risk profile of this early-stage startup ventures, their too small expected returns, high transactions cost, made this very highly innovative firm a bit less attractive for traditional investors. On the other hand, we see that the amount of capital these ventures need is too large for friends and family. So we see here an opportunity to close the gap, the funding gap in between the triple F and the business angels and private capital with equity crowdfunding. So in a way, equity crowdfunding is the platform facilitates an exchange between entrepreneurs and non-professional small investors. And it's important, they're non-professional small investors. But in recent years, due to equity crowdfunding market growth, we see that more business angels decide to participate in this activity, so take part in these campaigns of equity crowdfunding. As we know, business angels usually invest in ventures that they have a real knowledge regarding the market, the product, they have the experience. They are more interested in investing in projects that share the same value. And some of them, or research show that they also invest in close proximity to their location. Crowd investors, on the other hand, they are very, very different from business angels. They are younger, average age of 40. They invest smaller amounts. So the average is $1,000 or 1,000 pounds. And more importantly, they lack any specific knowledge of the market or the product. And very interesting, is to see that they spend an average of 15 minutes on due diligence, comparing to 20 hours spent by business angels. So if we see these two players, that we can start to assume that there is an interplay between them and a win-win situation. So like any high-risk investment that is characterized by high uncertainty level due to information asymmetry between the entrepreneur and investors, research showed that crowd investors, they lack in-depth knowledge about the venture. They interpret investment made by professional investors, such as business angels, as an effective signal, so bypassing in a way the due diligence. Regarding so it's a high, it's a quality signal regarding the venture's quality, true quality. So it, in a way, influences the investment decision made by crowd investors. But it's not a one-way ticket. Crowdfunding investors have their own role in this interplay, because by investing in the venture, they also act as a market validators. They provide judgment and whether the idea is worth pursuing. On top of that, crowdfunding campaigns are public activity. So a successful entrepreneur in engaging the crowd is a positive sign regarding the entrepreneur's marketing and presentation capabilities, and his or her commitment and enthusiasm. So in a way, signaling their ability to commercialize the venture, and having a win-win activity between both investors, the crowd investors and the professional investors.
Okay.
Access to risk capital is one of six, and you mentioned it, Gabriel, in your statement. So access to capital is one of six factors comprising the entrepreneurial ecosystem framework, as described by the OECD. So I will focus only on the access to finance, but of course there is education and infrastructure, etc. But equity crowdfunding in respect reflect a new form of finance. Has the potential to expand the availability of capital, shorten the timelines from fund asking to investment, and becoming a better fit to some investors, to some entrepreneurial ventures, while complementary to traditional VC and business angels to other ventures. In terms of the geographical market, and I will be happy to go deep into the numbers later, the United States is the world leader, and they accounting for 40% of the total volumes. The UK is the European leader with more than 20% of the global volumes. China is the Southeast Asian market leader, and Brazil in Latin America is a market leader and among the top 10 countries in leading in equity crowdfunding, in the equity crowdfunding market. The development of equity crowdfunding market is affected, as mentioned before, by country-level regulations and law, as well as on the availability of advanced new technologies as internet, mobile infrastructure to facilitate communication between fundraisers and investors, and the implementation of secure payment services, as it has a lot to do with trust in technology, trust in transaction method. But the entrepreneurship-oriented economy is a means rather than a goal for itself. It is meant to bring value in several ways, such as economic growth, job creation, and poverty reduction. Nevertheless, to achieve these long-term economic goals, policymakers must set a favorable entrepreneurial environment, this ecosystem, that will encourage entrepreneurial behavior. Crowdfunding, with this regard, is a means with which entrepreneurial ventures can raise fund or more easily raise fund with its establishment, but its establishment is affected by the same policies that promote or hinders entrepreneurial activity. So crowdfunding is an entrepreneurial activity for itself. And policymakers committed to their country's long-term economic growth and well-being should start by improving the availability of capital to early-stage high-risk ventures, among others, ecosystem measurements, at the national level in order to encourage and foster entrepreneurial activity.
Daniel?
Yeah.
I will have to cut you in order to continue, you know.
Yeah, I'm done. So perfect timing.
Okay, great. So I would like, please, with your permission, thank you for your words. I'm taking the non-bankability of Latin American countries, especially the small and medium sized, and that's connected directly to Doron Cohen's words. In Latin America, the access to finance and access to data in general is much more challenging than other countries because we don't have tradition of data keeping and credit history, and most of the banks are seeking for someone with a very solid obligo in order to lend him money, because we're speaking about lending, not about angel investments. Dun & Bradstreet in Latin America developed databases and analytics to help startup and mature company to have better information before the penetration to different countries of the region. So today, Mr. Doron Cohen, the chairman and CEO of CIAL, Dun & Bradstreet, will inform us about the innovation in Latin America through special economic zones. Please, my friend Doron.
Thank you, Gabriel, and thank you, Daniel. I mean, I like when you talk about Brazil being in the top 10 countries in the world in crowdfunding, which is amazing. I mean, we have to remember that Brazil is America without Alaska. I have more than 28 million company in Brazil, full database on everything they have. As a matter of fact, I have 43 million companies, but the difference is those that closed already for statistic purpose. Yeah, I would like to touch, because time is very short and I know we have to finish soon, the special economic development zone situation. Because when I look at other places like Silicon Valley, like Tel Aviv Wadi, like Be'er Sheva, like the Technion, like other places in the world, like the city, Manhattan, where I'm now, and compare it to Latin America, I believe the one thing that Latin America need to really hammer is this special economic development zone. Now, obviously, already in 2008, Mexico and Brazil, even before, start to develop it in the previous government. But it's important to understand, I mean, in today's time, in the year of Corona, we know that there is hundreds of millions of people with no access to internet on the mobile. Information and data on companies and people it can be found much easier than past. So the opportunity to circumvent and disrupt long-time incumbents is better now than ever. There's not even a doubt about it. And this is true pretty much to every country in the region. I mean, as Dun & Bradstreet, we have representation in 43 countries in Latin America. A few of those companies are over 120 years old. I think in Argentina, we're over 120 years old. We are the oldest company there in Argentina, still under the same tax number. And it's amazing because once the region will understand that the goal to build innovation clusters is the #1 rule to be a successful entrepreneurial country. Once they understand it and dive into it, things will change. And it's not a long-term investment. It's 3 to 5 years investment. I mean, clusters emerge when a network of companies coexist within the same geographic location. And today it's going to be between the same Zoom location. Not necessarily have to be the same geographic location. And allowing each other to calibrate, to work together, to compete with each other. any way you do it, it will allow you to compete and to borrow information, knowledge, and entrepreneurial spirit from the company that's sitting within this cluster. And the best example, really, the latest example in Israel is Beersheba, where they attach the university to the cluster, to the economic zone, to the government support, which is an amazing example. Cluster attract innovative people. It's obvious. Company benefit from each other's success, failures. What one invent, the rival can access. The sharing of knowledge, the spillover effect of innovation, and the networking effect, the density of populated space enable all key ingredients for startup to be successful. Those economic development zones must happen. There is really 6 main ingredients for the success factor. To prosper, a cluster need to have, first of all, you have to have skills and talent. So we're talking about academia. So it has to be attached to the right universities. Accommodating of a policy framework, government. Infrastructure, government. Low cost, especially in the early stages, government. And obviously a good lifestyle offering to draw a lot of young talent. And we're talking about the young talent. We're looking for the people 22, 21 till 30. Those are the people that make it happen. And finally, of course, you need good luck. These are the 6 pillars that really require in order for the economic development to be successful. The problem is that in Latin America, they don't deliver it. I believe part of them do not deliver it with all the goodwill. There is a huge will. I mean, when you look at the way Mexico moved to more and more digital, the way Brazil moved to more and more digital, the way Chile moved to more and more digital. I mean, information. I can access every invoice in Mexico, Brazil, or Chile that a vendor created on a B2B, every invoice. I can analyze it. I have over 50 technology people that working only between 3 countries, Argentina, Brazil, and Mexico. If I will include all Latin America, around 110 engineers that sitting and analyze every invoice of customers, understanding what really happened to them. And today in Corona time, it's really a must. Because companies that used to be good before, not necessarily didn't lose everything 3 months ago. So this access to data is a must. Combine this open data with the smart economic development zones, put the right environment. This is what creates successful entrepreneurship. This is what will bring Latin America, which we admire, to be very successful. If you have any question, Gabriel, I'm ready to answer whatever you need. But I don't know, it's your time. I know time is running out on you.
I will ask just one quick question. From your perspective, what are the greatest near-term opportunities that you can foresee in those large countries that you spoke about?
So it's really obvious, you know. It's remind me. I purchased. I was the co-chair of Worldwide Network down in Bradstreet in 196 countries in the world. So I learned all regions. And 4 years ago, I purchased Latin America from DNB as a company that we own right now. So I remember when we purchased it, McKinsey Global Insight Study from those couple years ago really show something that's proven to be correct, that in Latin America, businesses on average will add people to drive productivity. Again, they will add people to drive productivity. But lately, and especially this year, but in the last 2-3 years, you see the changes, even in Mexico, Brazil, Chile, you see these changes happening, but mainly in the Corona changes happening now, businesses are realizing very fast that digitalization is possible and in effect can make business much more productive with fewer liability. Therefore, I see greatest opportunity in everything financial inclusion. If it's fintech, optimize credit decision cost, access to data, supply management, compliance management, all those things are on the cloud and easy to access. Data science, innovation in data access, tools to provide companies with more efficient, data-driven decision tools, all those available right now. Thanks mainly to 2-3 countries like Mexico, Brazil, and Chile that open the books to everybody. It's almost like in England, okay? Collaboration technology platform like facilitating trustworthiness, digital collaboration among demand and supply sides on B2B and B2C, service module, all those startups can be successful. The last one, of course, is health, alternative digital enhancement model, and the e-commerce, readapt to COVID-driven restriction in traditional essential good supply chain. Those are the areas where I believe we should boom in Latin America. This is my hope, and I put all my money on it.
Thank you very much, Doron. I hope that we'll have time to return to you with another question in the next session. You were telling that the government is such an important player in this. Many years ago in my lectures, told people that the role of the government is not to disturb, but now everything is changing, especially because of the situation that we are facing now. This combination of university, industry, and all the ecosystem is exactly what Kobi Kalderon is going to speak with us in the next minute. Kobi is the founder of Gold Ventures Investment, and is also the senator of the World Business Angel Investment in Vienna, now sitting most of his time in Austria and bringing startups to Europe and to the German-speaking countries. Kobi, would you like please to explain about your model of the 5 players?
Yes, of course. First of all, I would like to thank to Barbas about inviting us to participate in this event. I must say that I'm exciting twice. Once is because I'm participating in this event together with you. We are in the same company. We are running together GVI. And the second thing, actually, now we are in the middle of process that we are doing with ParkQ Tech from Costa Rica and bringing 4 companies from Latin America to Austria in order to help them to penetrate DACH region, all the German language countries. And we try to co-invest with our investors with this fund in the Costa Rica's companies that come into Europe. So it's a very, very exciting moment that now we are in the same page, let's say. We are trying to bring companies from all over the world via the bridge that the Gold Ventures Investment built during 5 years. So what I want to say is one assumption that before I'm diving deeply to the concept that we built in GVI, from my perspective, every country looking for the following objectives. One is to developing the economy in the market, sustainability of the business sector. They want to see sustainable business because the sustainable business creating jobs for people. And most of the time, the government want to see resilience and quality of life. And I must say that I saw a lot of countries in Europe that putting these objectives in their vision. And once I come to Europe in the last 2 years and a half, I saw that, for example, Vienna can be the model, Austria can be the model to all these 4 objectives that fulfilled by the government. It's not means that the government is not a bureaucracy, it does not any bureaucracy to help entrepreneurs to raise funds or to get some instruments to survive. But in the end of the day, once the ecosystem is developed by private and public sectors together, the team forces together to help entrepreneurs to survive, you can see that all these parties trying to help the startups to grow. And once you come from Israel and you bring the technologies from foreign countries, we are more than welcome to get access to potential companies that coming from Austria to Israel as well. So it's a both sides. We bring companies from Austria to Israel to learn the ecosystem that we have in the Israeli ecosystem. And from the other side, from the other way around, we bring companies from Israel to Europe. So this is the main 4 objectives that we saw during our journey when we built GVI in the last 5 years. With your permission, Gabriel, I just want to share the presentation or one slide that demonstrate what we are doing in GVI. Just to show to the audience and to the attendees, this is the company that now we are working in Costa Rica. A Tech ecosystem is acceleration program and a fund, and from this place, Costa Rica, we bring the companies to Austria. Now I would like to emphasize how we are doing this, how we implement this concept in foreign markets or in undeveloped countries that looking for the opportunities to develop the ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship in the country. So actually what we are trying to do is to find, we start from the end. We try to understand what is the vision of the company, of the country, what is the vision of the government, what kind of key sectors they want to develop. There is some countries that putting their attention about fintech. There is countries that putting their attention on agriculture or a medical device, life science projects. We try to understand which companies, which corporates is based on this country and what is the instruments that the government can provide to foreign companies, to foreign startups to come to this market. And what we are trying to do is to map what kind of instruments the government can give to foreign companies and to startups from the domestic market. The second is what is the facilities that we can get from the universities that most of the time seeking for clients to use these laboratories, to use this infrastructure because some of the times they are not occupied. The third thing, we try to map what kind of a spirit we can see in the country. Maybe we can help to motivate the young people to invent some ventures that can solve problems in the country. So we start with education. We try to build training programs to train the young entrepreneurs what is innovation. And once they understood what is innovation and what is the theory of lean startup and what is the product market fit theory based on Steve Blank that wrote the book in US, they start thinking about what is the problems that they have in their surrounding that they would like to solve. And in this way, we enhance the innovation in the domestic market itself, and we collaborate with other startups that we bring from our ecosystem from other countries. GVI is a global company that's based in Israel and Austria, but we have 16 global partners in 16 countries, including in Brazil and Costa Rica. And with our partners, we try to attract foreign companies to come to this market and to collaborate and the team forces together with startups that we have in the domestic market in this country. And the most important thing that we try to understand is who are the corporates that based in this market, in this country, that looking for new technologies, looking for new ideas, open mind to innovation, looking for new opportunities. And we call that innovation corporate management. That it means that we try to build mechanism that can drive the stakeholders of these corporates to define the challenges, the requirements, and from this point we try to scout the companies from the domestic market and from our global network. In this way we make some pilots. We try to target pilots and POCs with these corporates in order to validate the product in the market and to prove market validations. Once we can prove market validation, then we approach to the risk capital that we have in the country. We come to the venture capital, to the family offices, to the groups of angels, to the banks, and we try to motivate them to invest in these companies that we bring from our portfolio or from the domestic market. So the main point of this model is convergence. We see in some countries that the government is not so connected to the university. The university is not connecting so well to the young startups that they have in the market. Or the corporate don't aware about new technologies that the young people bring from their mind in this market. So what we try to do is to bring all these five factors to one desk, to round table, to make the brainstorming together, and to build a committee that is behind this concept. The committee is based on representative from the government, representative from the universities, representative from the corporates that based on this country, in the sectors, in various sectors. It can be in medical, in life science, in energy, or in other sectors, and representative from the capital that based in this market. And once we all these five factors together in one desk, something amazing happened. Something amazing happened. In this way, we team forces with all the key players in the country, and we see that there's a lot of motivation to help the startups to survive and to grow and to help them in global expansion. And GVI is like a bridge, is like a gateway that not only developing the ecosystem in the country, actually we try to help these opportunities that we can find in this market, or capital that we can see that exist in this market, to team forces with other investors that we have from other countries. So in this way, we co-invest in the companies, we minimize the risk of the investor side, we raise the valuation of the company side, and in this way, we can build something that we call that win-win situation to all the parties that part of this concept. So I'm very excited to say that we are managing that together with Gabriel. Gabriel is my partner. He brings his knowledge, his expertise, and his global network. And we are doing that in undeveloped countries with the Foreign Affairs in Israel that give us sponsorship to this initiative. And we team forces together with my private company that we built in the last 5 years. And this is the reason that I moved from Israel to Europe, because I thought that maybe the European market can be the bridge to US and to Asia market. And I think that Latin America, if the Latin America market is open-minded to adapt this concept, we are more than welcome to make a brainstorming with stakeholders from private and public institutions and to implement this concept in each country that would like to make it. Thank you very much, Gabi.
Thank you very much, Kobi. I think that you just lifting it to Rosendo to respond exactly about the last point you mentioned. Rosendo Alvarez III is a serial entrepreneur. He's the co-founder of Cyberpark, the founder of the Eco Cyber Lodge, which is the first container-based hotel. Rosendo is also the honorary consul of Estonia in the Dominican Republic and one of the DR innovation ecosystem leader. Rosendo, as both of us are sharing the same passion for diplomacy and entrepreneurship, can you please share with us part of your journey in the Latinization of European business and innovation models?
Thank you very much, Gabriel, and thank you for inviting me in the company of such an outstanding group of experts on their own fields. On a practical, from the practical point of view, as you know, I'm essentially a prototyper. I see ideas, I see and create and some other people's visions, and what I do is try to facilitate. And the first one in which we participated was in trying to create an environment similar to the 5 different points as an export processing zone, but that it was particularly designed for technology-based companies. So this is the southern part of Santo Domingo. That was back in 1999 it started. You and I, we were there from 2000 to 2004, and it has continued on. I think that essentially one of the things that we have done, in addition to having that particular as an original stakeholder in trying to, in partnering with the government of the Dominican Republic to create that environment, the original idea of the designers was to look at Silicon Valley. My experience along all these years, and especially with the relationship of more than 17 years with Estonia, is that many of our countries, the sizes of our countries and the sizes of our markets, they have to readapt in Latin America all these visions that of experiences that can only be successful in the elements and environments of the countries that they have taken place of. Silicon Valley, there's only one Silicon Valley. And Estonia has created its own particular way of handling with 1,300,000 inhabitants, looking at the world as the market. Up to now, it is the country that has 5 different unicorns. That means companies, startups that are already valued in excess of $1 billion each in the international markets. So this indicated to us that essentially the most important thing in this journey has been knowing that when you have an idea, you have to try to first, in the Latin American mentality, you have to be able to show it. That's the reason you need a prototype. You need something that people can touch, because in order to assume that they can already have imbibed all the nuances of what technology is all about and what it can do for them, it is not going to work, because most of the powers that be that control the economy and that control the political system do not see this as the viable, easy solution because it represents radical change. So essentially, you have to create a disruption in which it happens away from the constraints, those that are obvious or not, of the system in which you're operating, especially in Latin America, because things there are reactive instead of proactive. And that's the reason you and I began utilizing the first voice over IP mechanism for a call center in the Dominican Republic. Because before that, the telephone companies, the main companies, would not allow the commercialization of IP in order to be utilized for that type of business. So lately, some of the things that we have done is to try to gel what it is sustainability and the love for the sustainable solutions of the globe, and take the conversion of aspect of investing in ventures that in the Dominican Republic is, of course, I was the creator, as you know, of the first securities exchange. It has not become still a stock exchange, and that's one of our main desires, that an equity stock exchange be created in the Dominican Republic, because the general mentality that is in not only the Dominican Republic, but some parts of Latin America, is debt-based mentality. And with that, you try to, and you see that some of the government initiatives are in giving loans to small and medium enterprises. And the opposite that we see in places where the success has taken more rapid solutions is by having equity participation. To finalize, one of the main worries that I have, of main desires, is the ability to create a second market or third market that provides an exit door. We're very charming in the Caribbean. So as you know, we can attract a tremendous amount of investment. The problem is when you decide that we have to part ways, well, generally, then there is no exit door, so we have to fight. We have to become enemies because most of the time, I mean, it doesn't work out that there is, and that's the reason there is a need, I think, a tremendous need to create exit strategies and exit doors that will allow to be able to give much more, let's say, comfort to foreign investment to come into our markets. So I just wanted to finish that because I know the time is short, but I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Rosendo. I would like to address, please, one question for all of you, including Israel Pons, please. And the question is, what the hell held Latam back? Why can't Latam progress even faster? I think, Doron, you're still in mute.
Man, this is the most famous line in the world. Unmute yourself. Yeah. So in my eyes, it's very, very simple. I'm in business for 40 years, and most of us are in business for 30, 40 years here. Corruption and aggressive local power businesses are the greatest blocker of innovation and success in Latam. The best way to combat local corruption is to provide customers alternative suppliers, to give them other ability for supply management and suppliers for his needs. I mean, to get outside of the local sphere of control of the traditional people. Therefore, companies that provide data and transparency, and it's more and more and more, especially in the large countries like Colombia, Mexico, mainly Mexico and Brazil and Chile. These are the three leaders one. So providing transparency that help companies establish trust with vendors and finance providers, it will enable them to lend hand financially. It's huge, valuable in the next years ahead, huge. I mean, there is a window of opportunity now when people aren't meeting in person and instead meeting like we do now in the Zoom, where everyone is on equal playing field. Now is when innovative company, the transparent and open, can act and change the status quo that was in Latin America for many years. This is the time, and I bless all of you that dealing with startups and with innovation. Guys, this is the time that all of us should push.
Thank you, Doron. Anyone else? Rosendo, I think that you have a lot to say in this aspect.
Thank you. I agree with Doron, and I think that the issue of being able to try to then proceed in a way in which you try to, if you're a small entrepreneur, to find a niche where you can yield yourself as much as you can from the corruption environment that he represents and says presents as a very big obstacle for development and growth. That's one aspect. The other thing is the ability, of course, to be able to then proceed, trying to have the kind of linkage now, as we mentioned, to the world outside. This is a big lesson that we have learned from Estonia. And I think that this platform, what you're doing, and everything that is taking place at this point in time becomes a tremendous tool that has to be made aware to the entrepreneurs that this exists and these are tools. And this is very important to be able to also transmit that message. The other thing is, just to finish up, is the issue of being resilient, being blindfolded. You need a lot of belief on yourself because there's a tremendous amount of obstacles. And once you have even already accomplished or you have accomplished, the experience that we have gone through is that there will always be, as if you are in the wild woods, somebody trying to undercut or trying to take away from what you got. So these are things that are really important to be transmitted because, as we all know, business life is not a walk in the park. It is war, and we have to fight it smartly. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel?
Yes, I was just writing some notes here. And I will give another perspective more from the research field, because there are a lot of factors that hinder entrepreneurial activity. We heard here about corruptions and regulations, and you know, how many processes an SME has to go through in order to establish a business. But the interesting part is that research shows that entrepreneurial networks, and this is something that is feasible and can be achieved. So and networks of entrepreneurs have the ability to moderate these different levels are high, but these networks and the support of networks between each other and sharing information, like Doron mentioned earlier, have a significant impact on handling these very high levels of problems that entrepreneurs encounter. So this is something that, other than looking at the problems and accepting them, this is something that is feasible to execute and give entrepreneurs the tools in order to deal with these barriers.
Thank you, Danielle. Israel, would you like to share your ideas about what holds us back?
Sure. I think that could probably that could be another full panel, I think, of an hour of things that could be. But nevertheless, there are success stories. There are things that are going really well in Latin America. The economy is always growing, but it's almost as, you know, it's the promised land. It has certain similarities with Africa as a region, where I believe some of the main issues are not necessarily things that you could change through time or through initiatives, you know, whether it is to fight corruption, whether the startups need more skills or not, but actually it's the human person, the human being, the soft skills that need to be acquired and how they can be changed. It's something that the Latin American entrepreneurs need to have more of. I'm not saying they're not, but that we haven't got enough. Let's call things as they are. We need to have more entrepreneurs that actually believe that they can conquer the world, that they can come out of their own country. Loads more, not just the 10, the 15 unicorns that we have right now. That's nothing in comparison to the demographics of the region. We need to have the appreciation of trust. There's a culture of not trusting, basically. You are a very good neighbor. You welcome people to your house. You welcome people, tourists, to come and see us in the great beaches that we have in the Caribbean and everywhere else. But we don't trust anybody. The first thing the family tells you is don't trust the neighbor, because you never know what's going to happen. But yes, help the neighbor, but don't trust the neighbor. So there are certain cultural things that need to change. We mentioned during this session earlier on that most of the region speaks Spanish, but it's almost like we all speak different languages within the different cultures and traditions of how to do business that we make. You have countries like Uruguay, Paraguay in the south that they used to do business more like the Europeans, and then you have Colombia, Peru, Central America, Mexico, which have almost a backwards way of doing business. Not because they want to do it that way, but because there is less resilience to actually share more. So I think there are a number of things, but I will say most of them, if you want to change, you know, I do think if you want to change an ecosystem, yes, you need help of government, but you don't need handouts from government. Yes, you need the private industry to come in, but you don't need a dinosaur to come in and try to eat you, right? You don't need a shark. And yes, you do need entrepreneurs that are resilient, and they cannot blame everybody else for their faults. And they cannot blame the investors for not investing, for not believing in them, right? Because, on the other hand, you need the investors to absorb risks, and they have to learn. And this is one of the things we're doing with this Congress is how can we take these tools to investors who are risk adverse to become risk familiar with this. So there are a number of things that I think in Latin America can change. I think it can change very quickly. We do need, however, not to absorb any other models from around the world, because each culture, as we know, is different. Why has never been a Silicon Valley in another part of the world? Because, you know, it's different situations and different times and different economics locally and different culture. Why isn't there another entrepreneurial country, like nation, like Israel is? Because, you know, you need to have certain things to happen. But what you can do in Latin America is take the best out of each and leapfrog. And I think that can be done.
Thank you very much, Israel. I'm going to conclude now this session and return the ball back to you. So from one Pons to another, my mentor is the late Ponciano Rondon, which is calling Pons, told me when I tried to leave Dominican Republic, why the hell are you leaving a country where you have to do everything have to be done and go to a country where everything is done? But now I'm feeling like I'm back to the continent and I'm trying to contribute from my knowledge. I'm going to summarize it in few words. The success of the Israeli entrepreneur is with his hunger for success and the tolerance to failure. In Latin America, there is no failure tradition, meaning you're afraid to fail. The second thing is connected exactly to what just Israel said, is the risk loving. The Innovation Authority here is the only government agency that I know worldwide which is risk lover, meaning that they are willing to invest in the pre-seed condition, and by that giving the kind of validation to the entrepreneur and to his business and his vision. Customer-oriented vision, streamlined lean startups is another option, and of course a supportive ecosystem, which is what we are always speaking about. I think in order to conclude is we're speaking about money and we're short on time. We're short on both of them usually, but Latin America now is in its money time, and it's our opportunity of all of us here in this session to leave a mark in the progress of Latin America. Thank you very much, and I would like please to return to you, Israel, and again thank Bybers and you for the opportunity you gave me to lead this important roundtable.
Dear Gabriel, thank you very much. Dear distinguished speakers, it was a great session, by the way. I think we have to invite also Mr. COVID as a speaker, because Mr. COVID established maybe the most efficient economic trade zone in the world, online digital economic trade zone. So I am thanking so much to all of you, dear Israel Pons. Thank you very much for your chairmanship. I am sure all audience now, we have around 300 participants still online, and you also found joining the session from your computers a rewarding experience. All the best from Istanbul, from snowy day of the winter to all corners of the world, and let's keep in touch. And tomorrow morning Asia Summit will start. In the afternoon we have North America Summit. I hope you can also join to these summits too. Dear Gabriel, thank you very much for your moderation, wonderful moderation. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hasta la vista.
Hasta la vista.
Thank you very
Doron,
much.
Daniel,
Bye-bye.
Rosendo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.